Next up, we have Patty Edelburg, the Vice President of NFU, Wisconsin Dairy Farmer. The title of her talk is Surviving the Current Farm Crisis and How It is Changing Rural America. Patty has been serving as Vice President of the National Farmers Union since March of 2018. The National Farmers Union is the second largest general farm organization representing 200,000 farm families. Edelburg was appointed by the Obama administration to serve as the Wisconsin Farm Service Agency, FSA, State Executive Director in April 2016 and played an instrumental role in implementation of programs across Wisconsin as a result of the 2014 Farm Bill. Patty and her husband, Gary, own and operate a dairy farm milking 130 registered Holsteins, 150 young stock, and farm 350 acres of corn and alfalfa in Amherst Junction, Wisconsin. Let's welcome Patty Edelburg.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for letting me be here with you guys today. I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to try to speed this up, but I also speak really fast, so if I speak too fast, somebody holler at me and I'll try to slow it down. But I am the Vice President of the National Farmers Union. He kind of gave my bio, so I don't need to go through that, but the National Farmers Union is an organization that represents about 200,000 farm families across the nation. We're organized in about 33 states, and we're a big tent. We cover a lot of different agricultures, a lot of different topics, a lot of, you name it, this organization tries to cover it. We do a lot of work politically, a lot of policy work, very similar to Farm Bureau, but we do a lot more focus on family farm operations and family farm businesses. So I'm going to talk a little bit, I have a eclectic group of topics I'm going to talk about a little bit here, but a lot of it is going to be on the farm crisis, and farm debt happens to be one of the biggest things right now that we're dealing with as far as farm crisis. We are in a period of time right now where our solvency rates, farm solvency's ability to pay back one's debt, we have reached 10-year lows on our solvency rates. Farm debt is at the highest it's been since 1981, and our working capital is about 33% of the 2012 levels. So farmers are trying to pay bills with less money in their pocket. Farm bankruptcies have reached a level we haven't seen since the 1980s. And food prices haven't changed, though. So farmers' debts are higher, food prices haven't necessarily changed. People aren't paying more for their food, the farmers are just getting less for it. We have the safest, cheapest, most abundant food supply in the world, and farmers are not the winners in that at all. Farmers right now are receiving about 14.4 cents for every dollar that you spend on food. So of that, 85 cents is going to processing, marketing, you name it, it's out there. The farmer themselves that actually grow the food that you're eating are getting 14.4 cents. Farm economy has been dwindling for years as well. You can see since about 2014 it's been going down. We had a little blip in 2016. And if you look at the end there, 2018 and 19, you can see it makes it look on this graph like we've actually had an increase in our farm economy, our net farm income. But if you look at the lip that kind of goes down, the one that goes up the higher level there is actually the level that farmers had received with government payments. So the downward dip there is actually the level of the net farm income that farmers had received without the government payments. And we all realize that it sounds like the farmers are actually making money when it comes to these government payments. Farmers don't want the government payments. I don't know one farmer out there, and you can ask anybody in your backyard if they want to make a living on farming with government payments. Absolutely not. We want to make sure that we get our monies from the marketplace. But unfortunately, sometimes the marketplaces are taken away from us at a snap of a finger. This kind of shows you where these market facilitation payments have been given in the last year. And it's kind of skewed to the darker areas down in the southeast are where the majority of the market facilitation payments were going. And it's really left off so much of the places where food is actually grown in this country. And I know this is an older slide, but it's a lot about trade. We had a lot of our markets taken away from us in the last year, in the last 2 years, 3 years, and so much of it was done at the snap of a finger. We had, I know China was not a good global trading partner. They've been manipulating every country in this for a long time when it comes to trade. But we didn't need to do it alone. We alienated all of our trading partners, and we decided to do this alone. And now we have corn estimates since the tariffs that went on in China. We've lost 44 cents a bushel, and these are old numbers as well. But that was like, at the time, it was 6.3 billion that corn has lost. Wheat has lost 2.2 billion after a 75-cent decline after the tariffs went on, and dairy was about 70 cents. That's about 1.2 billion. NFU has met with many of the White House and USDA staffers to make sure that these market facilitation payments are actually working for the farmer. It does sound like we're going to get another round of payments, but I'm not really sure that we'll get anything after that. And like I said, farmers don't want market facilitation payments. They want the trade. They want to be able to sell their product on the marketplace. And so many of these marketplaces were started by farmers. So many of these, the checkoff dollars, so many of our checkoff dollars had went to put these markets in place. And we were not the ones that lost them, unfortunately. But trade is just one of the biggest things that's dealing with, that's causing a lot of our farm debt and our farm crisis. Consolidation is another. This is an interesting slide. I know, and so many of the issues that I'm talking about have already been talked about today, especially consolidation. This is a CR4, CR4 by industry. A CR4 means the top 4 firms that control that industry. So like let's say in corn, I can't really read my numbers from here. 85% of corn seeds are controlled by 4 businesses or four firms in the industry. Potash is 100%, that's not even up there. Soybean seeds was 76%. Pork is 66%. There's a lot of pork grown in Iowa. Chicken, 51% of poultry. So, and these, especially pork and poultry, them are industries that are vertically integrated, and they're literally controlled by 4 firms in the United States. And dairy isn't too far behind them. Dairy's been in the news a lot lately. You can just kind of read them as I click up there, but these are all things that I clicked dairy crisis in the United States, and these are things that I found on the internet. And dairy has never been in the news. Agriculture's never in the news. So when you're starting to find these headlines coming from global or national papers, you're starting to realize that we have a huge crisis. The dairy crisis has made national headlines numerous times. We're in the middle of 2 very large, long-standing processors who have just filed bankruptcy. We have no idea what kind of effect that's going to have on dairy. We know that it's going to have some effect, but what's it going to do to our small family farms that are trying to survive? Wisconsin Farmers Union, part of the National Farmers Union, has done a lot of work on this issue in the last couple of years. But Wisconsin has lost 2 dairy farms per day in the last 2 years, 2018 and 2019. We are down nationally about 20,000 licensed dairy farms. That's roughly 30% over the last decade. And sadly, the numbers of those cows being milked hasn't changed. We haven't lost a lot of cow numbers. Those cows have literally just went from small farms to large farms, large corporate-owned farms in many of them instances. And we're now at the point in this country where demand has fallen well below supply. We realize that we do have to do something to control the supply in this country, and that's not just on dairy, that's on a lot of other things, a lot of the commodities that are grown in this country. The Wisconsin Farmers Union has started an initiative called Dairy Together, and they started this initiative after we started listening to some of the Canadians that came down, Canadian dairy farmers that were talking about their supply management system that they have up there. And I know we can't cookie cutter Canada's supply management system, but at least we could follow some of their ideas and try to make our industry work. So the Dairy Together initiative is working really hard to bring farmers together. It's literally a grassroots movement. Dairy farmers are talking to the neighbors, talking about supply and demand, talking about supply management system, not necessarily a quota system like Canada, but doing something to manage our inventories that we have in this country. And it's actually starting to work. We've been at this coalition here for about 2 years, and just last week, the American Farm Bureau had passed at their annual convention a policy on looking into supply management or management change. So that's a really good plus for the dairy industry. But a lot of this has started a long time ago. Earl Butz, I don't know how many of you remember Earl Butz. He was right? Exactly. He was the Secretary of Ag under Ford and Nixon, or Nixon and Ford. And he had lost his job, obviously, for many reasons, but one of the biggest ones was one of the quotes that he had said. I won't repeat the quote, but these are two of the quotes that he had mentioned when he was Secretary of Ag. Plant fence row to fence row, get bigger, get out. And that led to a lot of consolidation and larger firms, corporate farming that we have in this country today. This here is a quote from Roger Johnson. Roger Johnson is the National Farmers Union president we have right now. And this is talking on climate change and what farmers are going to be able to do. I'll read it for you quickly. It says, "The obstacles are many. Farmers are actively looking for solutions. We are gathering with neighbors and friends in church halls and community spaces across the countryside to share ideas for how to adapt to changing weather and reduce emissions. We're implementing conservation practices that sequester carbon in the soil. We're installing on-farm renewable energy systems. We are growing corn and other crops for ethanol and other biofuels, renewable energy sources that will power America's future. And we are working with food companies to reduce the environmental footprint of some of America's favorite foods." That quote really talks about the initiatives that Farmers Union is taking when it comes to climate change. These are some of the talking points that Farmers Union works with when it comes to climate change. Conservations about climate change are moving in Congress. The private sector is becoming increasingly interested in sustainability and how to reduce their carbon footprint. This is something that we all need to realize, that this isn't just farmers, that everybody's looking at the farmers to help change that footprint. And agriculture is in a very unique position to help address that climate change. We need market incentives. Congress and the administration should take steps to incentivize and ease the way for new domestic markets and supply chains so that farmers can have more control over what they produce and have the freedom to make climate-friendly choices on their lands. We need to support policy solutions that build upon USDA's voluntary incentive-based conservation programs, encourage on-farm energy productions, including biofuels, and incentivize market solutions that help farmers become environmentally and financially sustainable. And the U.S. family farmers and ranchers must have a seat at the table. We can't go at this alone, and we can't expect everybody to talk for agriculture. Agriculture needs to be at the table on this. So much of the farm crisis, whether it's farm debt, whether it's consolidation, whether it's losing crops and land to climate change, has led to a lot of the farmer mental health. And this is one thing that I know we haven't heard yet today. So many of the other things we've already talked about. But farmer mental health is something that is increasing all over the country and is actually becoming very scary. Wisconsin now leads the nation in farm bankruptcies, as farmers are facing some of the worst economic times since the 1980s farm crisis. The exponential increase in requests for mental health services and vouchers in rural communities has skyrocketed. We have seen more and more, if you talk to universities or to departments of ag in separate states, they're saying that the farmer mental health issues are increasingly becoming one of their top priorities. The farming industry is the leading occupational suicide rate right now. That's double the rate of veterans and 5 times that of the general public. We need to really put a focus on farmer mental health. National Farmers Union is trying to do something about it. It's becoming a very large topic across agriculture. And National Farmers Union is working with the Farm Credit Council, the American Farm Bureau, and the Michigan State University. And we're going to do a 3-part step on trying to help individuals, neighbors, friends recognize the signs of farmer mental health. We're doing a 3-step program where there's a web-based learning session. Train the Trainer will be next, and then a toolkit of resources that individuals can take back to their communities and work with other organizations and work with other individuals to really help see the signs of farmer mental health in the country we have here. That's about all I have. I won't keep you any longer. I know you guys have another tight schedule coming up, but I'm looking forward to answering more questions on the farmer panel later this afternoon.